All right, I was being quiet, so I know how much to edit out. Welcome to episode 185 of Together BHA. Hopefully, I will not be doing the whole show solo, but I made 120 of them work out, so we'll see how we go today. Adam should hopefully be on the show soon, but let's go live. We do have a stop for work-related matters here in the USA. So, welcome to episode 185. This is not an episode I expected to be recording today. Nobody did. Graham Potter is now bookies' favourites, big time, to go to Chelsea Football Club after Tuchel was sacked yesterday in the Champions League after losing to Zagreb 1-0. This is a manager that Todd Boehly, the new Chelsea manager, new Chelsea owner, did not hire. He's not his guy. So understandably, in situations like this, you're always on a bit of a short leash. And he was let go last night or this morning, one way or the other. And Graham Potter quickly emerged as the favourite to go to Chelsea Football Club. Not great. I'm sure you will agree. But here we are a couple of hours later, and we are at a stage now where the belief is that he will be announced as Chelsea Football Club manager tomorrow. There is rumours that Pochettino is currently in London as well, having a conversation with Chelsea, and Zidane as well is also on that list. But Potter is number one choice. Now, I do have some talking points to go over, obviously, but I would love to hear your thoughts in the chat, and we can talk about that as well. But the number one piece here really is the suddenness of it all, right? We're going to be losing our best Premier League manager ever, comfortably, given we've only had two of them. And we're also going to be losing his back team staff. So Bjorn, Billy Reid, and I believe Kyle McCauley, who is his scouting kind of aficionado, will be off as well. So when you look at those players, or rather those names in the background, that's a lot of people that we're going to be losing in one fell swoop. We've already lost Bissouma, we've already lost Cucurella, we've already lost Neal Maupay, although that last one was probably one that we wanted to have out of the club. But yeah, we're in a bit of a rough situation here, ladies and gents. I don't think we were expecting to see this happen anytime soon. And I suspect, although Bloom and Barber say that they always have a ready available list, I don't think they're expecting this either. So really, it's about just how much of a seismic shift or impact this is going to have on the club as a whole. You would assume, having lost our best players in the summer and continuing to fly high without them, this may well be one torpedo too many for the morale of some of those players, at least. Or it can play the total opposite and really, really force people at the club to almost get an us versus them mentality. It's something we're going to have to find out in the coming weeks if this is what happens. Mikey in the chat, I've never been so depressed watching Rangers play, and that's not because I'm a Rangers fan. Not good. Enoch on the door, welcome back. We haven't seen you for a while. The one podcast you can watch live, and it's Potter going. Yeah, and it's me going solo as well for now, so not ideal for you. But here we are. Scooch in the chat is just sobbing emojis, unsurprisingly, honestly. I don't blame you. But let's talk about the seismic impact on the club. We lost Dan Ashworth, and we spoke, Adam, Craig, and I, at length about the fact that losing Dan Ashworth is not going to be the be-all and end-all, and that's because we have people coming in behind him, David Weir, and others, who will be able to take up that mantle, have learned under him, and will be able to continue that structure that Tony is pushing through. Now, the issue comes with Potter is he's still going to take all of his coaching staff with him. So a lot of that identity and ethos will go with him, both on the recruitment side and on the coaching side. So we'll see Billy Reid go. We'll see Bjorn Hamburg or Hans, whatever his name is, gone. We'll see McCauley go, and we'll see Graham go as well. So I think if we want to minimize this impact, we need to do two things. We need to keep Ben Roberts, who has been our goalkeeper coach and has been for God knows how long. We need to keep him. He is someone who has been at the club from a long time. I remember being at Stockport and he was running up the pitch and getting into a fight with people at the halfway line when he was at goalkeeper. And he has been a world-class coach ever since. And we need to keep Bruno. That is imperative. We need to keep some of the culture and the identity within this club if we're going to lose all of the rest. Obviously, we have Tony Bloom. He's the guy, right? But if you want to keep a consistency within that locker room, we need to keep hold of Bruno. That's the key for me, I think. Nick in the chat, worrying times, but nothing confirmed yet. Yep. Manny, hello, mate. Really sorry to hear of this and hope Potter tells them where to go. It's not impossible. He did it with us the first time. Bloom spoke to him when Potter went from Swansea. He came in for him. So it's not guaranteed that he goes to Chelsea, but we'll talk about the pros and cons here shortly in a second, probably when Adam comes on. But the pros and cons, the more that pros list weighs out, the harder it's going to be to keep him, unfortunately. IC or Issy Steele, he's gone. I'm not sure who you're talking about there. Potter or Bruno? If GP does go and we can't replace straight away Bruno for the interim from Mikey, I think that's the obvious answer, right? Yeah. I think we have to keep some sort of consistency in the club, and Bruno is the guy to do that. I know I went on record, this time last year, probably saying that I would love Bruno to be our long-term manager in 3 or 4 years. This has come way too quickly for him. I don't think that we should be giving him the long-term job, but I do think he needs to stay here. That's key for me. But we've got the team. We've got Bruno. We've got Ben Roberts. We can lose the rest, and we've got to hope that there's a plan in place. Nick in the chat, if the worst happens, I still trust the board. I'm sure they've been planning for this eventuality for a long time and have an idea as to what they'd want to do and who to bring in. We just need to be behind them, unless, of course, they rehire Sami Hyypiä. Yeah, that's always one thing to keep an eye on, right? Is the board generally have been superb in their managerial appointments since Tony took over. Gus Poyet, whatever people think about him, for the greatest amount of time provided us with some of the best football we've ever seen. Obviously, it ended horribly. We then moved to Oscar Garcia, who took a weaker side to the playoffs and was brutally unlucky in those playoffs, by the way, because he had a huge injury crisis at the same time. And then we went and got a hold of Sami Hyypiä, who was absolutely shocking. So, it's a tough one. And then, of course, Houghton came in and was superb. We do have Adam live from the sticks. Adam, how are you doing?
I'm all right, yeah. My trip's been ruined by, the news. Outside of that, good.
Yeah, it has been ruined. The first thing I was talking about is really the seismic impact that this is going to make on the team if we lose, its entire backroom staff, and the importance of keeping people like Ben Roberts and Bruno with the team if we are going to lose the rest of them, to keep that kind of culture in the dressing room and in the locker room. Do you agree with that? Do you think that's, or are you worried that Bruno may well be out the door as well?
I'm worried about all of it. I think there's this mindset with some people. I don't know how much you've talked about this, obviously, because I'm late here, but this idea that the club is bigger than any one person, which I think is true. And that's testament to how it's been run and how it's been set up. The problem is, I don't know how much succession planning you can do to lose the sheer volume of important people this club is hypothetically losing in the space of what is essentially 6 to 8 weeks. Your two best players, Ashworth and your manager, and potentially others. You'd be hard pushed to find any club in any sport that could survive that level of loss over such a short period of time. That's my concern. So yeah, I think the more people that go, there's going to be a massive problem. He's like the research assistant or recruitment assistant right now. I think there was an article just recently about the guy.
Yeah, Kyle McCauley.
Yes,
is the it would be him, Billy Reid, Bjorn Hamburg, whatever his name is, and him and Potter would all be the ones that you would expect to go off to Chelsea.
Yeah, that's. It's really hard. It's really tough. But a lot of it will also then depend on who obviously comes in afterwards, and then we also then have to collectively reset our expectations because there was a lot of discussion about why the club went light in the transfer window, and this came straight from Potter's mouth recently, right? Which was because of the World Cup. You don't need to get through that many games right now until we get the next transfer window. That's all well and good, but now you bring in someone else that doesn't know the system, doesn't know the players. You then have to wait until the January transfer window. Bloom's never been big on making massive moves in the January transfer window. So you're suddenly like, well, what does this season turn into when it's got off to such an amazing start? But from Potter's standpoint, his ranking's never been higher, has it, than it is right now? I think he has to. He looks at himself and says, "I've got to cash my chips in because I don't know when I get this opportunity again."
Yeah, and that's kind of the pros and cons for him, isn't it? I had a pros and a cons list here as well, and the pros look hard to turn down, annoyingly. So the cons I had was it's an unstable club as of right now. There's going to be a huge amount of player egos. Mid-season upheaval for him to walk into, which is never easy. Another club without a striker, which I really like, and then the huge risk of his reputation, right? But when you look at the pros, half of them are answered, possibly. It's a big club, start of all. They have a shit ton of money. So any issues he has with the squad and player power, if he's truly given the opportunity, he can fix that real quick. And the biggest one, too, really, that worry me is that if this is the Todd Boehly project and no longer Roman Abramovich's 8-month manager reigns, like a peak Watford, we're in big trouble there because he loves the project and he loves the vision. If Boehly can sell that to him, it's going to be next to impossible. And then the only thing you've got left on that list was the main reason he turned Brighton down the first time when he was at Swansea, and that was the upheaval for his kids and his family. Their training ground's 45 minutes from Brighton. There is no upheaval necessary. And that's a big problem for us, isn't it? It's not Manchester City. They're literally a 45-minute ride away.
And he's probably already driven past Stamford Bridge and said to his wife, "You know what? It's my dream to coach here one day." Yeah, I think the biggest one for me was your sort of second to last point around the new Chelsea ownership structure, and I think it can come across as continuation here based on what would seem like a rather knee-jerk reaction to Tuchel's results and the news that's come out. And again, I'm sorry if I'm rehashing anything, being like the decision was made prior to this Zagreb game. So there was a breakdown in communications between the way things were run. Apparently there was like some like WhatsApp group that was set up between Boehly and Tuchel, and Tuchel likes his distance and likes to just get on with things. And with Abramovich is dream in that regard. He just doesn't come anywhere near. He's in a different country on a yacht somewhere and just pummels money in. Great. Whereas Boehly, this is Boehly's plaything. He wants to be really hands-on, hence being the interim director of football or whatever it was. But Boehly's whole thing and his ownership in, I forget which baseball team he owns in the US, he's had that coach in place for years and years. Like, I think he can just point over there and be like, look, this is the way I operate. Tuchel wasn't my guy. There was a disconnect between us. It wasn't about the results, by the way. If it was just about the results, but I thought he was the right person, he'd still be in this position. But it's not. I'm looking for my coach over the next 10 to 15 years with this club. That plus everything that Chelsea Football Club brings, you can see why he's incredibly tempted by it. And I think your last point is absolutely on it as well. You probably look, he's put it like, do I want that Man City job? Do I want that Liverpool job, even when those coaches move on? Because that's a big change. Moving from Brighton and a little bit further up to get to Southwest London is not a big ask. So it seems like the stars have aligned potentially for him and for us. It's incredibly unfortunate suffering from success. Insert album cover meme.
It really is. Just a couple of people in the chat. Manny, Personally, I think Potter deserves a lot of credit for keeping the team strong after losing Cucurella and Maupay and Bissouma. By the way, you didn't mention him, but him as well. He's an amazing coach who drills his players well. Chelsea will just throw him away. I hope you're still listening, because I think there's a reason to think they won't just throw him away. That's kind of part of the problem here. That's kind of what we're worried about. Enoch on the door. We're going to get to yours in a minute. Actually, I'm not going to go to you first. Nick doesn't think his reputation is at risk. If it does go wrong, it can be explained with, well, it's Chelsea. We don't know what the new guy is going to be like as an owner. I think you're spot on. And C Diamond Gamer 7, we bought in Graham Potter, a completely unknown manager. I don't think that was a coincidence. I believe the same will happen again. However, it might be not as good or as quick. I'm 50% in agreement with you. I think it's probably going to be someone that we're not going to know immediately. They're not going to be a household name, so to speak, because Enoch on the door has the mindset of, we've got the money, let's go get Pochettino. Would work great with the South American contingent. I think he would obviously be an unbelievable acquire. Like, getting in Pochettino would be, I think, an obviously excellent appointment. I just don't think it's a realistic one. But I disagree that Graham Potter was an unknown manager. He very much was not an unknown manager. He was on the back of newspapers for beating Arsenal in Europe. He was already very much well known, and people were talking about him as the next best young English manager outside of the UK prior to coming to Swansea. He wasn't as unknown as you think, I don't think. So, and then Sumptuous Sofa, great name, by the way. It's not a good move for Potter. I'm not sure anyone is accurate. I think it is. I think we're talking about the fact that it probably is. Adam, what's the possibility that Bloom just throws him a blank check? And do you think that would be enough at this point, with the 70-odd million pound net profit that we talked about at length this last couple of weeks? And you tweeted it, right? Let's spend that money on him. I think it's a great point. Do you think it's something that is going to happen? Do you think that Tony is there right now talking to him and saying, what do I need to do? Or do you think it's almost like just pissing into the wind, because the opportunity to manage a club as big as Chelsea is something that makes the money irrelevant?
I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they had some kind of quote unquote gentleman's agreement around something like this. If a top four side is truly interested in me, don't block the way, which is pretty much what has come out. Is we're going to let you speak to them. But at the same time, you'd be nuts if you're not trying to at least like make a gesture to keep him. He's wanted by everyone for a reason. I'd be shocked if he wasn't trying to do that. But at the same time, I don't know how far it's going to go. We always make these assumptions from the outside in by saying, "Oh, why would this player go to this club? We're such an exciting project here. If it's just about money, we can pay them a bit more." Look, we're all in various jobs and careers and things like that. And this is, until we prove otherwise, and this club has been on such an evolution and upward trajectory that we're all incredibly thrilled by. No taking away from that. But this is a next level for a manager. This is the pinnacle. This is a side just off of winning the Champions League 2 seasons ago. It's a side that is expected to compete for the Premier League title. It's a side that spends 200+ million in a transfer window with a new owner who I don't think seemingly is going to rest until he's won everything. That's a very different project. And at which point then it doesn't just come down to the wage that's offered, as much as it'd be nice to think about that. Even if Tony turned around and said, Graham, we're gonna offer you whatever they've offered you, we'll offer you the same. I still think Graham Potter probably makes the move. All things considered, purely because Tony Bloom simply cannot offer the same things. I know it's blindingly obvious, but the wage piece in my mind is probably quite a minor thing, but he should do it anyway because he's got it good here. He has a good setup.
Yeah, I think it's obvious that he's going to at least try. But yeah, I think keeping him as we said, the project is too good. If the project is as it looks on the surface, then he's going to be sounding that out, and there's not really many people better better prime for that than Graham to work out what's real and what's not, which is even more annoying because we know he's going to know what he's walking into. Between now, because we played Bournemouth on Saturday, of course, 3:00 kickoff, absolute turmoil, a game that should have been one that we should be going in there looking to win. We're at a point where we don't know who will be in charge. We don't know what the heck will be going on. You have to assume that Bruno will take interim charge at this point if he stays. If he doesn't, I know Barber on the sidelines, possibly, if we have no one else left in the backroom staff. I don't know. But after that, the
Andrew
Palace
Croft
game has been
steps up. Yeah.
Palace has been postponed due to the rail strike.
Yeah.
Something that we've seen coming a mile off, really, with that rail strike announced. It just wouldn't have been feasible for us to hold a game on that day. So considering that's no longer on the board, we're looking at a very real possibility of no football games being played from the 10th of September until the 1st of October for Brighton and Hove Albion. If there is ever a bright silver lining to this shit show, it's probably that, right? We have ample time to get someone in and almost provide them a miniature intensive preseason with the team.
Yeah, and of course, even if you do go on a bad run, the worst case scenario is the bad run until the World Cup, and then you get some more time, right? I'm so curious as to what direction Bloom ends up going in. If this all, by the way, this might not happen. This could all be Tony Bloom signs a 6-year contract at Brighton for an absurd salary. But assuming it is all final and does go through, I'm really intrigued whether he tries to get someone that's come in, is in a job and they need to pay compensation for, because from what it sounds like, I don't know whether this has been discredited, but is there a 16 million-ish release clause in Potter's contract? That's what's being bandied about.
Yeah.
More money. There's no shortage of money at Brighton right now. There's never been more money at Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club. Hey, Zidane's out of the work, isn't he?
He would be the second. He would be the second most expensive manager in history, behind Nagelsmann, if he was to go. Given what we're having to get for him, couple of other people in the chat. The good news is everything today. There is some. Is this a shut the Villa fans up saying he'd go to them? Yeah, I suspect that pipe dream has long since sailed. Too much not safe for work stuff in there from one person. My dad, Jesus Christ. Sal, if he goes, one thing he won't get is the time. And for him to let him go, it will probably be cheaper. No, that's something we've just discussed, Sal, if you're in here late, and we disagree with that. We think the allure here is he is going to be given the time under Bowley's.
Yeah, it's a new Chelsea. It's a new project. Even despite the Tuchel going, this is a new project. If he gets given the job, I think come hell or high water, he'll be in it for at least a couple of years. It's different now.
Yep. If he does go and we don't get anyone in for Bournemouth, then their first 6 games will include Liverpool, Spurs, City, and Graham Potter's Chelsea if he was to go. Brutal run, isn't it? I mean, at least you get rid of the bad stuff at the start, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm worried about Bournemouth now, because what's the opposite of a new manager bounce? It's a new manager's sunk. Just yes, because I don't see it. It's not like we're getting rid of this idea of a bloodletting. Finally we've got rid of this. At Leicester, Brendan Rodgers goes, the fans are going to be thank God it's finally gone. Here it's just oh no, this is awful for us. How did everyone find out about the news? I'm interested because obviously we've got time zone splits here. I woke up in the middle of the night, so about 5 a.m. something. I say middle of the night, it's early morning, isn't it really? And the Tuchel stuff was just all over my Twitter feed. And it's just been a matter of a few hours and suddenly the world has ended. It's gone from, oh, wow, Tuchel got sacked to, oh, God, who on earth can we get to manage Brighton? This has all happened way too quick for me.
Yeah, I woke up and last night we were talking about Tuchel getting sacked in one of my groups, and they were like, I wonder who they'll go for. And I just wrote, it'll be effing Potter, won't it? And everyone was just like, haha. And then I woke up this morning and there was 20 posts in that chat. And it was just all can't wait for Josh to wake up. And I'm like, oh, shit. And then everything unfolded in front of me, just like a cascade of just awfulness, just going through everything that I was reading. Just horrific. Sean really does think we can lure Pochettino. I'm not saying I don't think we can. I don't know whether Bloom would go for him. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I don't know if he would, or whether he would prefer to go for someone a bit more low key. Nick had a notification from The Athletic during the morning meeting at work. I think the look of emerging horror on my face clued in my colleagues as to what was happening. Yeah, it's either that or like an asteroid is heading to Earth, right? Like something awful. So let's talk replacements. And I'm just going to read these out for you and everyone else, just to get a bead on what you think here. So the latest or earliest, I suppose, odds list we've got of managers that are supposedly in the frame to come in. And I'll just list them all and then we'll talk about them, whichever ones you want to. So the Celtic manager is currently 6-1 favorite. Ange Postecoglou, whatever his name is. Very good manager for Celtic right now. Plays very attractive football. Obviously doing great things up there, but it is with the caveat that it is Celtic. Obviously, decent attacking possession football would suit our style if we didn't want to change it up too much, but there's a whole other host of unknowns from him, i.e. SPL. We've also got Knutsen. He's been also lauded for his football style, and he's also right up there as second favorite. I believe he is Bodo Glimt boss. I'm massacring his Scandinavian names.
European darlings for their activities. What last season was getting Roma and others, wasn't it? Yeah.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it? After our last appointment, he has also been linked with several top British jobs in the past couple of months. After that season, he was bandied around for just about every Prem job since he left. And then we've got a bunch of others on here as kind of other names. Thomas Frank at 7-1, Nathan Jones at 16-1. Next one is Bruno, 10-1 as well, is on there. Pochettino is 12-1 as well. And you've got a whole host of other names that have been thrown around in the meantime. What do we think with some of those names? Who's your guy if you have one, or even just a list of ones that you would be happy to see walk through the door, whether they're on that list or not? Ralph Hasenhüttl is thrown out in the chat. Done well with a poor Southampton style, likes the style of Saints. Don't feel it would feel like it would fit with us. Other people are immediately not fancying Ralph. So what do you think? There's going to be a lot of heated debate on this piece if Potter does go, isn't there?
I just don't. I'm still in shock. Like, I don't even want to think about. It's like your girlfriend leaving you, and people are talking about, who are you going to start dating next? I don't want to think about it.
They're setting up your Tinder profile as you speak.
Yeah, I don't want to come out for a drink. Actually, no, I'm just going to stay home and cry for a bit. That's how I feel right now. The only thing I will say about it, and less about particular names, I'm sure you've got some thoughts, but if you think about some of the most interesting managerial hires in recent memory at clubs in this sort of second tier of the Premier League table, well, it's not fair to say after our last season, but like West Ham, for example, when they hired Moyes, everyone laughed. Everyone laughed their asses off at them hiring David Moyes. Like, what are you doing? They have no clue. What a pathetic hire. And Moyes last season, the season before, has been setting the world alight. That they've been generally lauded as like the next club to take a step up into 2 seasons in European football. Point being is, before everyone gets up in arms about all of this stuff, none of us know anything. And we're going to get to a point where whoever comes in, I'm hopeful that the system is set up around them. The expectations have been set between them and Bloom and others, and Weir, if Weir stays in the seat as well. That they're building something together, and the style of football is logical and fits in with what they want from the club. Would Pochettino be a splashy name? Sure. Do I think he's a particularly good manager? Don't know how much proof we've seen in that outside of one decent Champions League run, which was relatively fortunate. But the fact that we're even talking about a name that is held in regard as a Pochettino coming to take over at Brighton is fun enough in and of itself. Invariably, we're going to hire some random that we've barely heard of, and we'll see what happens. And hopefully, it's Potter v2.
Yeah. While Nathan Jones did well at Luton, he failed dismally when he took the step up to Stoke. I think he needed the top level championship side before making the step up. It's interesting you say that, Nick, because Eddie Howe also did horrifically at Burnley when he made a step up. I would argue that neither Stoke or Burnley are the step ups they think they are, especially behind the scenes at both clubs. And I think you've got to take that into consideration as well. And I think that obviously it's a much healthier club to be coming to, whoever you are, when it comes to Brighton and Albion. Would Ange at Celtic be willing to leave the Champions League? I mean, that's a huge point, right? Like, they're playing active Champions League football now.
Yeah, they want to get smashed up by Real Madrid 3-0 a few times more just to get their real fun out of it.
Slocks in the chat is obsessed with Sergio Conceição, or whatever his name is. Yeah, absolutely obsessed. He's absolutely obsessed. He's just, he loves the guy. Bo Svensson at Mainz could be a wild card. We're going to see a lot of these names in the next 2 or 3 days or week. God forbid it's another goddamn week until we do our job. Sean Sullivan is picking the same guy I would love us to go get as the Denmark manager. Kasper Hjulmand could be a good option. His name escapes him. I've just given you it, Sean. You're welcome. I think he is a superb manager. And whenever I heard him in his press conferences, he just sounds like a Danish Graham Potter. He's very high on the emotional intelligence stuff. He's got a similar background to him. I mean, how much higher can you take Denmark at this point? They are already an incredibly well-regarded national team. I have no doubt that there will be clubs in for him after the World Cup. It's all fantasy booking, isn't it, at this point? But if I could guarantee that we keep Bruno from now to Qatar and then get him in immediately afterwards, I'd bite your hand off for it. If we got that pre-agreement in place, which is quite common these days. But there's a lot of names on that list. It's going to be a long couple of days. I just hope that we don't take too long. We've talked about the fact that Barber has said that they have a plan A, B, C, and D if Potter was to leave, and they've had those plans at all times. This is really the perfect team, the time, isn't it, though, if we have to get someone in? Like, I would be really disappointed if we take 2 weeks from now to get that manager appointed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the right time. It's bad news rarely has a good timing, but I suppose this is it. I'm surprised that Scott Parker and other people's names let's get Ollie in. Let's have Ollie in. Crack 2. Ollie's at the wheel, just so everyone can sing the song again. This is, if it's going to happen, it's fine that it's now. I think the only better time would have been if we'd have rounded out a really successful season at the end of this one, summer of next year. Graham says, tell you what, Tony, we're going to have a hell of a year. You give me some money to play with in January. Let's try and finish as high as we ever have done. Then I'm going to ride off into the sunset. But it's just there's no way to probably time these things because this job won't be there then. Who knows if he's going to get another opportunity like this at any other point? You also got to remember there was tons of question marks coming 9 months ago around Potter and whether he was ready to take the step up and how we will change our tune, especially fans of some of these other clubs. Like, Potter's not ready. Brighton can't score. They don't go on any long runs. It's not just the striker. He can't do it. And now it's like linked with the top jobs. It's a very fickle game, and even the managers that we're talking about now may well fall out of grace too. If we're talking about any kind of hot properties of the moment. And if someone in the chat's mentioned Scott Parker would be a poor choice, fell out with the boards at Fulham and Bournemouth. Sure, but there's no reason why a person can't get on with another individual just in a different environment and setup. If not, none of these guys would ever get second chances. Tuchel's going to get another job, and he's lasted 2 years in every job he's got, and he falls out. Conte, 2 years, falls out. Like, the top managers have fiery personality. I'm not saying Scott Parker should even be used in the same breadth of those managers, but this is kind of how it works a little bit now.
Yeah, Slug in the chat as well. Brighton are in a perfect position in regards to timing, as our stock is very high. Sure, there will be plenty of managers wanting to work with us. Yeah, let's speak about that a little bit. Plenty of managers probably wanting to talk to Tony Bloom. Probably very interested in the project. We'll be selling a similar thing, right? We'll be selling a project just like Todd Bowley probably is to Graham as we speak. Let's talk. Let's talk about a couple of people sold on projects. Billy Gilmore, how's he feeling right now? Just signed for Graham Potter from Chelsea in order to play for Graham Potter. No buyback. How's Billy probably feeling right now?
Not as bad as Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is. So, yeah, get me out of Barcelona, please. I miss working with you too, Short. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm actually leaving. Yeah, I think Billy Gilmore should be all right, though, right? He wasn't going to get game time at Chelsea, so it wasn't a case if he was leaving something good because he really wanted to play with Potter. It was more just everything seemed good on paper to move to Brighton, and Graham Potter was a decent part of that. He's probably a little bit frustrated, but you can't make these moves when things move so quickly. Yeah, it's the Aubameyang one did amuse me, though, quite a lot, just thinking about that. Guy gets his jaw smashed in, his home broken into in Barcelona. It's like, oh, thank God I can escape, go back to what I know. Nah, no, you're not.
Yeah, big time. Another one to talk about, and I've received some flack on this on Twitter for even daring bring it up. Same as you, people are just wanting to cry about their girlfriend as she walks out, that she's still, the door hasn't even slammed yet. But it's worth bringing up. Most reports are saying that he will be given an ample war chest in January. If you are Graham Potter, you are surely coming back for Moises Caicedo and or Alexis McAllister in January, aren't you?
No. No. Maybe that's just wishful thinking. Chelsea do have a wealth. I mean, Moises Caicedo is not going to. I know Kante doesn't play every game at the moment, and they are looking for life after Kante, but I don't know if he's truly going to displace the players that play in that central midfield for Chelsea right now. And thankfully, we don't have a number 9 there. Maybe he'll sign Welbeck. He's actually probably he'd be their best striker, something, wouldn't he?
I think Aubameyang
excused.
Yeah, I think the issue is that you've got a manager that, by all intents, we watched it, and if he's going to be backed by Bowley and is going to be fully backed, so player power is not an issue to a majority extent. We saw a manager who got rid of a lot of very toxic personalities very quickly at Brighton and Hove Albion, some of them long tenured, and he just binned them ruthlessly. While I agree right now, there may well not be spots available that would realistically be filled by those people. You would assume that not only will he raid a few clubs for players that he's long admired that Brighton simply couldn't afford, and or annoyingly come in for possible generational talents like Moises Caicedo, he is probably going to be able to fund most of it on getting rid of the ones he doesn't want, isn't he?
Yeah, but I don't know whether I do that, whether January would be necessarily the right time for that level of upheaval. I also just think there's no way that we'd sell another player in January, just given that the imbalance between incomings and outgoings of this club has just had in the summer. I truly do believe that the way we operated this summer was done with the caveat that we are going to be there'll be an influx of players, not an outflow of players in January. So if that were to happen, if Potter was like, you know what, Todd, go get me the player, bring Tony Bloom into Claridge's or wherever you do your silly business deals and pay whatever it takes to get that player. Well, then it's more of a case of, I think we have to look around and whoever the new manager is, we go, don't get us relegated, and we're going to go on a spending spree, the likes of which, you know, people at Nottingham Forest are going to be impressed by in the summer. So I don't see it that I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not worrying about that. So I'm in the camp of the people on Twitter that are going to say one thing at a time for me. What about you? You are obviously concerned about that then.
I think it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, I think it makes total sense. When you look at the spots Chelsea are weak and need reinforcements in, and those same spots are also the ones where they have a large amount of possibly considered toxic players, which Graham won't stand for. And he's got a player that is going to be 20 years old. Like someone else said in the chat, though, Potter admitted that 42 million won't buy Caicedo's boots. So he's probably going to be fully aware that he's not going to be able to get him cheap. But if you're Graham Potter, for me, it just feels like a total no-brainer. Go get two guys from Brighton that you think can be the backbone of this team. And I think Caicedo's one of them. I don't know who the other would be, if any of them. He may not consider anyone else good enough to make that step up, which is great. If so, we'll keep the rest. But if he does, I'll just say it. To me, Moises Caicedo is one of them. And it's annoyingly worrying that he may well just come in for Chelsea supporter Lewis Dunk too.
Oh, come on now. What the best position of anyone to be in right now is Moises Caicedo's agent.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Because you're looking at his whatever, like £4,000 a week salary, and you're probably going, you need to figure this out, or we are going to be putting a whole bunch of stuff out. We're going to be calling Fabrizio's line and telling him to just pepper tweets out into the ether about how we're looking to step up and move to Chelsea. Here's a positive spin on this instead. I hope that if Potter moves and takes this job, Chelsea have a whole squadron of England players. At which point, I would hope that Southgate has a conversation with Potter and asks for some level of recommendations, which Graham should be like, well, by the way, have you had a look at this small team on the South Coast? I know them quite well. You should be looking at X, Y, and Z. Maybe that's the positive. But I don't, with the gaps that are in Chelsea's team right now and what they would look to take away, my biggest worries in the mid-term would be Moises Caicedo, and the next one for me would be Robert Sanchez, because Chelsea, and I don't think they're particularly happy with their goalkeepers, despite the fact that they've got two incredibly expensive goalkeepers. But Mendy's been very dodgy over the last year at this point, after his really good kind of time. Kepa's not a popular boy. So, yeah. I've no idea if I've frozen or Josh has frozen. That is... Josh, did I freeze or did you freeze?
I think we both froze. We just disappeared. So it looks like we're back anyway. I'm not sure what's going on. Continue.
We're being DDoSed by Naylor.
We do have to wrap here quickly as well, because I'm currently supposed to be in a meeting. So we're probably going to have to wrap here.
We should let him know that this is really important. But yeah, the latest news that is coming out is that it's basically is almost a done deal at this point. Is what I'm seeing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the same. Verbal agreement in place. Contracts tomorrow. In before Fulham. You would assume tomorrow, or well, Chelsea like to announce their business quickly, don't they? So I'd expect it to be tomorrow that he's announced, and we will go from there. We'll see. There will be plenty to talk about on Saturday. One I thought was going to be a pretty chill pod, regardless of the result against Bournemouth. But alas, I guess this is not going to be a chill one. So we will be back Saturday. Not planned, obviously. This emergency show has been aired. We'll see how it goes. This will be available podcast format like immediately. As soon as I get done with this work meeting, I'll figure it out. We will see. We'll see what happens on Saturday. We'll see what happens in the next 2 days. Just stay safe out there, people. Don't get too upset, and just keep the faith, I suppose.
Yeah, I will be upset, and it's a drinking evening. I think that's the plan. Yeah, have a good one, everyone. Cheers.